Valter, it's a privilege to have you here. You are from Albania. How did LiFe Evangelism start in Albania?
Well, first, the privilege is mine, and I want to thank you for this. In 2014, about 10 years ago, I participated for the first time in a LiFe training, LiFe seminar in Switzerland. And it sounded, well, before that, it was a pause in our church. So we came up to a certain level or up to a certain, somewhere, and then it looked like we were stuck there. And I was actually praying and seeking the Lord. What is the next step? What can we do to come out of this stuck? How can we mobilize the church to evangelize, not one and two or three people in church, but the entire church? So during this period of 3 or 4 months, after this, period of prayer, then LiFe, somebody spoken to me about LiFe. So I participated the first LiFe 10 years ago in Switzerland. And it was an answer for me on these prayers I had done these 3-4 past months, and because LiFe gave me a hope, if I can put it like this, that the entire church can be mobilized to think for the lost, pray for the lost, go for the lost. Now, as pastors, we have seen 1, 2, 3 people, 4 people in our churches that have this evangelistic or evangelic heart and spirit. But as pastors, we'd like the whole church to have this evangelistic life or heart to go for the lost. And it was the right time and the right answer for my prayers and questions. So LiFe had a great impact on me because I understood out of this tool, I understood that we can mobilize the church to go for the lost. And well, it has a great impact because I understood that it was easy to grow the church. Well, it's not a magical formula. LiFe is not a magical formula, but it's a good way to make the church think for the lost, go for the lost, pray for the lost. And of course, salvation of people is not in our hands, but praying for the lost, evangelizing lost, inviting the lost, that's in our hand. So we can go. And in that way, LiFe struck me for good. So, gave me a wider vision, so to say, or a wider perspective on how to go on with the church. And actually, to be honest, it has been the best tool I've ever used in my ministry. And I've been in ministry for about 30 years. So I've used different tools on evangelism and many tools on evangelism, like many other pastors have done that. But LiFe Evangelism, LiFe toolbox has been the best I've ever used. Because as I have used different materials or different programs for evangelism in our church for about 30 years, I have seen that many materials have been focused and pointed to evangelism. So bringing someone to hear the gospel, and if he or she will receive Jesus, then hallelujah, that's all. But LiFe, into me, it was the first toolbox to combine together the Great Commission, which is not just go and preach the gospel, but it is go preach the gospel and make disciples. And how did I find this combined together in LiFe was that LiFe doesn't teach us only go and preach the gospel, but teaches also how to be a companion, how to follow up the ones who receive Jesus, how to disciple them, how to focus on them even after they received Jesus. So it is a wider focus on the lost, since the person does not know Jesus, into the moment the person received Jesus, and then after that into the person how to walk with Jesus. So for me it was fantastic. So the only way I can describe it, it is LiFe for me was amazing.
Thank you so much. What was the result you have seen in your church when you started to apply the LiFe Toolbox?
Well, I got LiFe Toolbox and communicated to the leaders. They received it very gladly. And then we communicated it to the church, and they received it gladly. And then the first thing I could notice and recognize was that the people in the church started to think on 1, 2, or 3 people they are related to every day. How can they pray for them and how can invite them to hear the gospel? And so the result was, the first result and the greatest, I would say, a result in our church was the shifting of the minds of people, a shift in the minds, a shift on the focus of people in our church. So they were not anymore just focused on me, bless me, give me, keep me, which is good, it's not bad, but they started to think even on, Lord, the lost, give us the lost. And it reminded me, and still reminds me, about what Jesus said, the harvest is great, laborers are few. So the result, the greatest result I can testify out of LiFe in our church is it transformed the people into workers, laborers for the harvest. And of course, if you have this, then you will have people being added to the church. So we saw people added to the church, but the greatest I rejoice upon was the shift of the minds of people, of the hearts of people, of the focus of people. And
thank you so much. But was it also possible to win other pastors that understand this mind shift and experience the same in their churches in Albania?
well, pastor's friend of mine, when they saw the result in our church, they saw people of the church thinking on the lost, praying for the lost, going for the lost, inviting them to hear the gospel. And the church started to grow even spiritually and even numerically. Then the other pastors, my friends, they started to have this question, what has happened? What has happened to your church? And I remember a friend of mine, a good friend of mine from Russia, he has been visiting our church several times. And then after we put LiFe or implement LiFe in our church, he came to visit us again. He didn't know that we were applying LiFe in our church. But he came and he asked me, Valter, what has happened? I said, why? He said, because I see the church more revived and I see more new people in this church. And I said, well, it is because we have implemented a new way of evangelism. It is LiFe evangelism. So what I want to say is that when friends of mine, they saw the results, then they become curious on what's happening, what's going on. And as they saw the results, as they saw and heard our testimonies, then they wanted to implement, they wanted to know more on LiFe evangelism and implement it in their church. So we have a couple of friends now, they have implemented LiFe in their church. And by the way, if you want to know, I have a friend, well, there are a couple ministering in one of the most toughest cities, towns, Muslim towns in Albania. It is almost, or not almost, but 100% Muslims. So he was there planting a church, this couple, friend of mine, and they implemented LiFe. When they implement LiFe, they saw that more people started to come in the church, and more, the church people, they were more founded in the idea and in their spiritual life and the idea to go for the lost. And so he has some good results there. He has some families and some people being added to his church as well.
Thank you so much. So yeah, now this little video is for our friends in Portugal. Are you ready to assist also pastors or churches in Portugal?
Oh, that's a great question, because when it comes to LiFe evangelism, to LiFe Toolbox, well, I can't say all in so little minutes of recording. I have so many to say because it's a real tool, and it is a fruit-giving tool. So of course I'll be very happy to assist and very happy to meet them, and I'm very happy to speak to them more about life evangelism. So I'm glad that they are discovering this great tool, life evangelism. I am so glad that they're discovering this tool, and then I'm convinced that they will have results in their church.
Thank you so much, Walter. I wish you a great time,
You're
and
welcome.
thank you so much for answering this question about life evangelism and life toolbox. God bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you.